Okay, hello, this is Mystic Rob, and I've been wanting to make a video like this for some time. I wanted to do a video on my tarot style and how I do tarot. Um, it's funny because I'd been thinking about this all day, and then I saw another tarot reader make the same kind of video. And one of the reasons I've been not wanting to do this thing is I didn't want it to look like I'm comparing myself to anyone. And you can compare styles. It doesn't have to be an ego thing. And so that's really kind of where I want to come from. Just to, I had to reframe it. I went from thinking that it would be perceived as that, and then I had to reframe it in the context of, well, if other people are putting their style out and explaining it, it's not a competitive thing. Maybe it's an offering up, and they're putting the information out. Why should I deprive anyone of how I do things? And so there could be people out there who might gain from something I have to say, hopefully. So that's my motivation. And I thought about breaking this into a formal lesson. I don't think I'll do that unless there's any kind of real request for it. I just kind of wanted to have it more like talking to somebody on the other side of the screen. So, in short, I was told that I picked up tarot very quickly, and I was told this by professional readers. And I don't think it's because I'm any kind of prodigy. I think it was because I've studied mysticism in other forms for most of my life, off and on, since I was 16 years old. So, I definitely see that when I came into it, I was sort of, ready-made as far as having understanding of certain things. The reason I got into tarot, and this is why I think that I read so differently than others, wasn't to become a fortune teller or anything like that, or even to read professionally. It was because I was in a situation where I don't want to give all the details, but I realized that I need to defend myself at the psychic level, and even in the supernatural element. So my initial study of tarot was for psychic development, and that has clearly colored my style. Now I'm going to say what I do is I call it holistic tarot reading, because everything but the kitchen sink practically comes into play when I do a read. Things I've studied, everything from martial arts, healing arts, just various things that I've studied throughout my life, various philosophies, psychology, personal development, and even things like neuro-linguistic programming. These all, for me, are things that I am mindful of when I give a reading. So it's not just simply reading the cards and interpreting them. So I'd say this is this holistic method that I utilize. It's basically I try to draw from everything I've ever learned. So I would have to break this up into a few categories, and by no means is this conclusive. If I were to do a formal class or study or write a book, I'd probably break it down even more. But the four elements or four divisions of how I do it, there's one is what I call the primary elements. That's just the cards themselves, and we'll talk about that in this video. The second, I would say, are psychic elements. Now, psychic does not mean what most people think it means. It means of the mind. So it's not necessarily supernatural. But then there's the intuitive aspect, and then the fourth one is what I would call the supernatural aspect. So I'll probably make 3 more videos dealing with those others. Right now I just want to talk about what I call the primary element, and that are the cards. I was going to display some cards and go through that, but the point with the primary element is it's pretty much what you can get from most books. They'll tell you what the cards mean, the meanings of each card, but the cards also, in addition to having 2 or 3 meanings, will also have various colors, and I recently, like I said, I saw somebody going through the colors and talking about the colors in the cards, and that can tip you off to a meaning. There are numbers on the cards, and so if you study numerology, you might find some significance in what the numbers mean. You could even, if you understood numerology well enough, do a read with just regular playing cards, using the suits and the numbers as a divination oracle. There are stories behind these cards. Not every deck is the same, and that's interesting, because when I use different decks, for example, the Ten of Swords in a traditional rider-waite deck is a kind of a bloody scene. But in my Caselli deck, there's no blood. So that changes the meaning slightly. The other thing, when I look at these basic elements, I look at things like small details. Because sometimes a card might not make sense, and I'm going to go into deeper explanation of that with the other elements. But sometimes it'll just be one little element, like a bird in the sky, will tip me off that although this card has 2 or 3 different meanings, the bird might symbolize freedom, therefore the meaning of the card has more to do with the aspect of, say, freedom than some other aspect of the card. And also, you talk to the querent ideally. Sometimes the querent is present, sometimes I do video reads with the question without the querent present. But it's always good, too, to frame an explanation of the card to the querent and see what type of reaction you get. So, I don't want to spend too much time on this element, or on these primary elements of what the cards are, because there are tons of books out there. There are lots of videos that you can go to and get this. This is something that everybody already knows, does, and talks about. You put the cards in the spread. You know their meanings. You can divine their meanings as the way that they are arranged. They tell a story. This has been explained so many times. I don't want to put too much effort into this part of it. But what fascinates me is now I'm starting to realize, because I come at it from a totally different point of view than I think most people do, the fact that it takes me longer to do a read, I'm not ashamed of that anymore. It's because my style is so different than what I see most readers do, that I have to take that amount of time. And that'll be explained in the next 3 videos. So, like I say, primarily it's a holistic kind of thing. So I call it holistic tarot. The primary elements are the cards and the images and the meanings behind the colors and the images and the numbers and anything else that you can divine through looking at the cards. And I'll say it once more. There's tons of material out there to learn that. But some readers, that's as far as they go. I'm not saying that's necessarily bad. Some readers, that they're just telling the story of the cards and doing that, and that's their method of divination. And so that's pretty much it. The other elements that we'll be looking at next, as I say, are psychic tarot, intuitive tarot, and lastly, supernatural tarot. So let's end this video, and I'll get to work on the next one. And thanks for listening. And once again, please, as I make these videos, if anyone has any commentary, any words of advice, any difference of opinion that you think might add meaning or give or inspire a good conversation, by all means, leave it in the comments section on YouTube, and hopefully it'll open up a good discussion. Okay? Peace.